beautiful. So originally I was going to take 3 different color orange hues, and I wanted a lighter color and then a super light, but these are the only 3 that I had. So I started to think, well, maybe I could add things to it, like other clay colors, like the white, or maybe some of this yellow color to like the lighter one to make it even lighter, but I didn't really know how that was going to turn out. So I decided not to do that. And then I decided I was just going to do a translucent clay project, doing the same idea, but just with translucent clay. So you can just use regular clay if you want to. I had the only color orange I had for dyes is that carrot, and it's kind of an orangey red, so I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. Like, the darker it is, the more red it becomes, and the lighter you make it, the more orange it comes. So I was just going with it, just kind of playing with it. So just going to get some of my translucent clay out, just like 3 even-ish sized slices. I wanted them to be kind of the same thickness or the amount, so that each time I added dye to it, it wouldn't affect or dilute the outcome of the color. So the more clay you have, the more diluted your color is going to be, if that makes sense. I could always add more ink to each of the colors as I was making them, which is kind of the beauty of doing an alcohol ink project. So just to start off, I just put a couple on each one. With each of the subsequent colors that I wanted it to be darker, I put more ink on it. And I wanted like a swirly pattern. Originally, when I was going to use the solid colors, I was going to take the orange and mix it with a solid white and then get it all nice and swirly, like a dreamsicle almost, and do it that way. But since I don't have the white and I didn't want to put any white in this, I'm just going to not thoroughly mix the alcohol ink into my translucent clay. On this last one here, I did over mix it a bit, and so I had to kind of fix that. And what I decided to do was to take more ink and put it on there, and then use my paintbrush and kind of spread it out so that it'll dry a little bit quicker, and then adding a little bit more translucent clay on top. And that way I can roll this out flat and mix it around and get the swirl pattern again, since I overmixed it to begin with. And I was kind of worried about that, the one on the very far left. It was a little bit light. I was afraid it might be a little too light, but when you bake it, these do come out darker. That's just kind of how the alcohol inks work. So I figured I would leave that as it was. So really just kind of playing around with it. Like I said, this was like a big goof up, and you ever had those days where you're just like, I should just stop doing what I'm doing right now, because if I continue, nothing's going to turn out the way you think it's going to turn out. So that was where I was at. So I was just going with it. I am going to need a very thin layer of white clay. I chose white because it was the color that best contrasted the orange. You could probably have done black, or I don't know, maybe a blue, because the orange and blue would have complemented each other. Would have made them stand out a lot. So I chose white because that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be like a dreamsicle kind of a look to this piece. And that was kind of the title of my piece, was like dreamsicle. So I rolled out a piece of white clay, put it through my pasta machine, but when you put it through there, you can only go down so far, because then it gets all wibbly and wobbly. So to get it even thinner, you can take your clay, put it between 2 pieces of paper, and then roll it out. And I would recommend only rolling out on one side at a time. So if you put it down on a piece of paper, only roll 1/2 of it. That way, when you try to peel your clay up off of the paper, it'll actually come off and you'll have a nice grip on one side. Because if you do the whole thing, it just kind of plasters itself to the paper, and then it sticks, and then you have yourself a big old mess. Also, if you can't get your clay thin enough, you can just put it down on your work surface and just gently start to pry it with one hand up while the other one's holding it down, and that way you can kind of stretch it out a little bit more. You can only do it so much at that point, but it will help thin it out just a little bit more. I was trying to get it as thin as possible. I didn't want the layers in between the sandwiches to be super thick. I thought it was going to take away from the piece. I wanted it more orange than white, and anyway, that was the vision. I took my orange pieces of clay and put them on the white flat clay, and I did that with all 3 of them. And then I had my centerpiece, which was a little bit too thick, but at this point I left it where it is. So just cutting off the ends, getting it cut down to size so that it matches my little orange piece. And really, I don't know why I was cutting this off. I didn't really need to cut it off. As I was kind of going through this, I was just like, you know what? This is already kind of a mess. So I'm just going to just continue to play with this stuff. And so yeah, some of these steps are not necessary, but I have my white clay. I decided to roll it out a little bit thinner, and I'm going to cut it down to size. The reason why I wanted it to be thinner was because, again, I didn't want the white clay to overtake the orange, because the orange color is a lot more fun than just the plain white clay. So that was that. And then with each of those orange colors, I'm going to wrap it orange side down against that white block of clay in the inside. And I should have rolled that little first piece that connected with it out flat, because when you roll it up like this, it has a little bump or divot in it. But honestly, it doesn't really matter either. You can kind of just roll it up however you want to. What I didn't want for this was it to be a bullseye, like a very sterile looking bullseye clay block. So what I was trying to do here was flatten out the piece where they would connect normally so that they wouldn't connect there. And then I'm going to roll it over and again cutting off, but I really didn't need to do that, and I probably shouldn't have. It might have added a little bit more beauty to the piece. When it gets done, it kind of looks like a like rose petals around that center white piece. So I wasn't necessarily going for that, but I didn't want it to be like a bullseye cane. So when I was putting on the new sections of orange each time, this is the third one, I wanted to offset it, and it wasn't like right where the other one ended. And I was a little thin on this clay, so I was trying to stretch it out to get it to meet the other side so that it was like a full wraparound. Again, it's okay that it didn't go that far. It comes out looking like a rose, and I'll show you just a second here. I was like, give me a drum roll, guys. That's what was going on in my mind. So I was like, shake your hand like a drum. I don't know. I don't know. Comes out really nice. I really, really like it. I was really happy with the way it looked in the cane. And it doesn't look like a bullseye. Nothing is like completely rounded. It's kind of jagged and not like a complete circle in each of the layers. I don't know. I kind of liked it. And I like all the little flecks of orange in there. It very much reminds me of some candy, some Lifesaver Dream orange candy. And I was thinking, you know what? I could actually use these little cane pieces on the end to try out or test out things that I want to make. So like if this came off the cane, I could cut off a few slices, roll them out, and then try out a couple of things. But my bonehead self just left it at that. I guess my brain just danced onto something else, and I was like, oh, the stencils. Anyway, so yeah, what I was trying to go for here was you want a stencil that has wide open spaces, not one that has a lot of the little connective pieces where you can't see, because you got to think that when you put that down, all the white clay, you'll see in a minute, all the white clay is going to be blocking out all of your beautiful orange pattern. So like this one right here would not be a good one. It's got too much blocking out, and you're not going to be able to shave off and get down to the next layer. This one would have been cool. I think it would have made a nice pattern against the pattern that was behind it. So I should have probably gone with that one. I did put it in the freezer. It just makes it easier to cut. That was more of a note for myself on the screen than for you guys, because I get to yammering and I forget what I'm gonna say. So I always have it planned out as an editing. I'm like, I'm gonna say this and this, and then I don't say it. Anyway, nothing ever turns out the way you think it's going to. I do like to pre-measure where I'm gonna cut before I cut, and then I made my official cuts, and between each of them kind of roll it out a little bit to get it so that it doesn't become like one flat piece of brick by the time you're done. So if you just kind of keep playing with it a little bit, you'll get rounder cuts. And I was just showing you a close-up. It looks so pretty. I'm like, I just want to bake it and eat it like a hard little piece of candy. Don't do that, kids. Don't do that. So yeah, I'm gonna make my veneer now. Just laying out all of my little circle discs, and you can lay them out in whatever pattern you want. And I'm not really concerned about the little spaces in between, because I am gonna roll rather gently and get it kind of smoothed out. It will kind of distort, obviously, the circle, but it was never perfect to begin with, so it was okay to me. And there's always one side that turns out better than the other. I don't know. It's just the way it is. And I do flip my piece as I'm burnishing it and rolling it out, but it still comes out better on one side. I think that is probably about the cuts that you make. And I was trying to decide here, like, how I was going to cut out my piece, like what shape I was going to cut out before trying to decide what stencil I wanted to use over the top. And this is the point where I should have like just walked away for the day and then came back on another day, but I just was trying to push through and continue this piece. So I made the wrong decision on the stencil that I was going to use. I should have used a flower pattern, but I didn't. Ah, c'est la vie. Again, rolling out a very thin piece of white clay, basically the same thickness that you did before on that last strip of white clay, or whatever color you're using, and just putting it on one side of the clay. Make sure it's the side that you do want to show through. So if there's something wrong with the back side for some reason, I don't know, maybe you got ink on the back side, just make sure that the white part is on the part that you want to show through. Okay. Just cutting off all that excess white clay around the outside. I actually haven't had to buy white clay in a long time. I was just thinking that. Probably like the only color that I haven't bought in a long time. But of course I have a large brick too. Anywho, that's like an offshoot. So I chose this little bubble. And I've used it in other times and it comes out so beautifully. I've done this, and it's just so beautiful. But it just didn't work with this pattern. It was just too many circles, I guess. But that's what I was thinking as I was making this. But as I was editing this, I saw through the camera here that it actually comes out a lot prettier than what I was thinking as I was sitting down messing with my clay. It was a hot day and I was kind of irritated. Again, should have just not been doing this that day. But you know what? We all make mistakes, okay? This is just clay. So I was just like, I want to do something. I want to make something. I want to create. And so that's why I didn't stop. But I still had, my own personal woes that I was dealing with. So at this point, while I was filming, I was just like, this looks like caca. But looking at it now, it actually looks really cool. I don't know, they kind of look like volleyballs or like planets. I don't know, like something floating in space. I should have left it. I should have cut it out. I should have just done that. But I was just like, no, I need to make it pretty. Because that's what people are here for, is the pretty. So I should have just used this originally, but I didn't. So I decided, you know what? I can fix this. I'm a genius. Oh my gosh, I'm a genius. I'm just going to put down this new pattern and everything's going to be okay. But then it wasn't a solid piece of white clay in the background. That's what I should have done. Maybe put down another solid piece in the background and then done it. There are lots of things I could have done differently, but I didn't. And that was kind of the beauty of this. It turns out nice. It really does. I'm really happy with the way the project turned out, but the process was definitely a learning thing for me. We can all learn things as we go, right? Right. Okay, so enough of my yammering about my mess ups in life and with this project. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I showed you all my little steps. I kept going back and putting it down again and then shaving it off, and now it's got this like crackle look to it, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool, right? And I was like, well, I want the front and the back to look the same, so I'm gonna have to fold this over on itself. And at this point, it was getting super thin, so I wasn't gonna be able to cut out a piece. So I needed it thicker. So my head was like folded over on itself, and then there you go. And so I did that. And now the pattern's on the front and the back, and I'm going to cut out my shapes, which I was like, I had this grand vision of something else in my head, but all I have are the circle cutters. So that's what I'm using. So used a circle cutter to cut those out, and I was making a pair of earrings. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do an earring or a necklace, but I gravitate more towards earrings. That's just what I like. I don't know. So cut out the shape. I used the baggie because I wanted rounded edges. I don't know. I just think it gives the piece a really nice polished look without having to do a bunch of crazy stuff to it. And I was trying to decide what I wanted to cut out in the center. That heart would have been cute. But I think I wanted more cut away from the center. So I decided more with a rounded kind of a shape, or an oval shape, not round. Get our shapes together here. And of course, put my eye hook pins in before baking. Popped this in the oven, baked it, resined it, and it really does turn out quite pretty in the end. And my friends, that's what we're here for, the end. Oh yeah, I was just kind of using my fingers to burnish out all the little creases in there and stuff, make it look beautiful. And that is resined. It actually comes out really nice from the time that it's just clay to being baked. Like the colors, I don't feel like changed a whole lot, so I was really happy with that. You do see the lighter colors of the orange mixed in there. I think that the color, you can kind of see it right there on the top right. You can see the light, the darker one, and then the really dark. It's just super pretty. I don't know. Looks like candy. I want to eat it. I just want to eat it. Okay, guys. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.